Grand Theft Auto 6, Ghost of Yotei, Death Stranding 2, Assassin's Creed Shadows. Man, it is going to be a huge year for open world games. We'll discuss all these and more on this week's Next Gen Console Watch, starting right now. Welcome back to Next Gen Console Watch, our show following everything happening with the latest gaming hardware. I'm Damon Hatfield. This week I'm joined by Max Scoville, host of Podcast Beyond, and Ryan McCaffrey, host of Podcast Unlocked. We've got a great show. It's going to be a huge year for open world games. Just this year alone, we've got GTA 6 coming, we've got Ghost of Yotei, Death Stranding 2, Assassin's Creed Shadows, and then looking beyond 2025, we've got Fable, we've got The Witcher 4, so it's good times for open world games. All of these games, their predecessors have been groundbreaking in one way or another. So we wanted to look at these games, these upcoming open world games, and sort of discuss ways that their forthcoming sequels could break new ground. And I think GTA 6, the biggest, most anticipated game, period, is a good place to start. Ryan, I know GTA 5 was really groundbreaking with its 3 protagonists that you could switch between seamlessly on the fly. It looks like we're not going to have 3 protagonists this time, but we might have 2, right?
Kind of a Bonnie and Clyde thing,
right?
What appears to be going on in GTA 6, and and you guys might remember. I know it is a long time ago that because GTA 5 came out. Wait, what year is it? 2025. We're coming up on 12 years since. It'll be at least 12 years between 5 and 6. But in the run up to 5, after the 3 protagonist thing was first unveiled, there was a lot of reasonable skepticism, like, wait, is this gonna work? Like, is this gonna be okay? And it totally was. Yeah. And it ended up being a really neat storytelling device. And so full faith in Rockstar. But 6, come on. Every Grand Theft Auto game has raised the bar for the entire. I'll just start with genre, because I could also make the argument that it's raised the bar kind of across the industry in a lot of ways, but certainly for the open world genre that GTA 3 itself really pioneered. I mean, you had 3, which was the groundbreaker, where you could truly kind of go anywhere and do anything and tackle missions in any million different number of ways. Vice City really infused a lot more story into it. And then San Andreas just took the scale of it and just blew it up huge into not just California, but into San Fierro, or what was Vegas? Oh, Las Venturas. Thank you. San Fierro was the San Francisco. And then, of course, 4, just really taking it to the next generation, making it more dense. Back in Liberty City, just the density went so much higher than it had ever been. And then certainly 5, adding back in the scale with the density. It's I could do an entire hour on just GTA 5 and how much I love it and how much I think it's amazing. And so there's, as I've said a million times, there's no reason really to doubt that 6 is going to fail to raise that bar again. Now, every game's different. Leslie Benzies has moved on. One of the Hauser brothers has moved on. So it's not the same core group of folks. So it's not a masterpiece yet. We won't see until it's actually out. But this team has largely been together for a very, very long time. And they have, for all intents and purposes, unlimited time and unlimited, genuinely unlimited resources. I can't imagine that they were ever told no on any budget. We need to hire 3 more mission designers to do a bunch of little side quests that only 10% of our players will ever find. Nobody's saying no to that at Take-Two. It's they're getting everything they want, because this game's gonna make them billions upon billions upon billions of dollars. So I will stop talking now, but yes, GTA 6, there's every reason to be confident that it will raise the bar for the open world genre again.
Yeah, there's also the fact that it's returning to familiar territory for the GTA series. We're going back to Vice City. Of course, the map is going to be a lot bigger this time around. Fans have tried to piece together the map, and it's actually a little bit hard to keep up with all the different additions. But I was trying to think of another example where a previous game's entire map appeared in a sequel as a smaller part of a bigger map. I don't know, Max, anything come to mind with that? I couldn't come up with anything.
I mean, Red Dead, right?
Well, there you go. 2? That's a great point.
Yeah.
Another Rockstar game.
I mean, the crazy thing to think about is and as many people have pointed out, we went a whole console generation without a new GTA. Mm-hmm. So in addition to, having unlimited resources and time and money to let this thing cook, they've also, they can learn from the successes and failures of an entire, a decade's worth of game design. And I think Rockstar definitely like sort of leads the pack in that department, but inevitably there are going to be some sensibilities that get rolled in there that are more modern. And I don't know what that looks like. I can't help but feel like that there's going to be some small group of people who are disappointed by GTA 6 just by the sheer fact that they've been waiting for it so long, and it's just expectations are sky high. That said, it looks really cool, and I mean, we haven't even seen the sort of what the gameplay looks like officially anyway. So I'm hoping that it's really unforeseen amount of density in an open world, and it's just full of weird little details people are picking apart for the next decade to come after that. But yeah.
Well, looking a little bit past GTA 6 and past 2025, we recently learned that Fable has been moved back to 2026. And that was coming from Playground Games. It's an Xbox game now. The Fable games have sort of infamously overpromised in the past, even though the first one did. Yeah. So my question to you is, now it's been so long since the first one. With the power of current gen consoles, can Fable now finally deliver on Peter Molyneux's overpromises from the past?
Well, I don't know if Playground is interested in having the seed of an of like an acorn blossom into an entire tree over the course of your playtime. Maybe they're gonna. Who knows? Knowing the humor of Fable, which is more of a quirky charm than a like meta fourth wall thing, but who knows? They could put that in there as some sort of nod to, little cheeky nod to the past. But but yeah, I mean, this is going to be it's clearly a new take on the idea of Fable, but we've seen enough, at least I've seen enough to be confident that Playground understands the humor and the charm and the tone of Fable, and they do seem to be capturing that so far. We did get, along with this push to 2026, not that we even had a date in 2025. I mean, I think Pretty had safely assumed it was going to be their big fall game. But now, pushing into a TBD time in 26, we still haven't seen any uncut gameplay, but as part of the delay announcement, we're playing it right now. We did get some just little snippets of new footage, and visually it's looking great.
Yep.
We have no idea yet how it plays. I will say one thing that I am really crossing my fingers for that we haven't seen any sign of yet. So kind of starting to worry in the sense of that it's just this thing I love is not going to be there. And that is a dog companion, which was a huge part of Fable 2. So, and Fable 2, I think pretty well agreed upon that 2's the best one. Maybe there might be some Fable 1 fans that would fight me on that, but 2 is awesome, and the dog was a big part of that. So we'll see, but yeah, I mean, if anything, this game, Fable just got announced way too damn early, which we could make that complaint about. I mean, Wolverine gets that complaint. A lot of games you could levy that complaint against now, and part of it is probably trying to cut off potential leaks and have their surprise moment, their announcement kind of ruined. And part of it's just that these big AAA games take forever, and they take longer than even the developers themselves think they're going to. But yeah, it's another, we're going to keep waiting for Fable, but at least Microsoft is like, they'll have shipped 6 games in the span of 7 or so months, between starting from fall last year, going up through Doom the Dark Ages in May. So at least they're shipping stuff. That's the good news. But yeah, Fable, I'm very curious how they're going to approach how open world it'll be, and kind of what the actual structure of that game will end up looking like.
Yeah. Well, that Wolfman creature they're fighting in pre-alpha footage looks amazing. So they could definitely do a cool dog companion as well. Looking even further out, there's The Witcher 4, which we got a sort of an introduction trailer to at the Game Awards last December. It's a little bit hard to imagine, what new they could bring to the table, because The Witcher 3 was already pretty groundbreaking with a huge, dense world that really felt alive, didn't feature any intrusive loading screens. I don't know, maybe they could have better, more realistic horse mechanics, because I think Roach was maybe a little bit janky in Witcher 3 and had questionable AI, would always get stuck on objects in the environment. Of course, Ciri would have her own mount, I'm sure. But Max, what are you sort of like expecting or hoping to see Witcher 4 bring to the table?
I'm hoping it comes out in a timely fashion. CDPR does have big, long development times. I first checked out The Witcher 3 because CDPR had already announced Cyberpunk 2077. And I was like, I'm a big Cyberpunk fan, so I was like, okay, I'll see what they're doing with fantasy in the meantime. And that was it. I don't know, E3 2013 or something like that. And they showed an incredible demo for The Witcher 3, and I was totally blown away because it just made, it ate Skyrim's lunch, which was the coolest thing ever at that point. And, sure enough, The Witcher 3 is a phenomenal game that they've continued going in and tweaking it. But again, that was last gen. That game came out a cool minute ago.
Yep.
One big addition for 4 is they're using Unreal instead of their in-house proprietary Red Engine, which I'm hoping makes it easier for them to get it out the door. If they're hiring people who know their way around Unreal, that's an advantage over having to train them on how to use some in-house thing. I know there's sort of a kickback against Unreal 5, sort of once you kind of recognize the what it feels like to play a game in Unreal 5, you sort of notice it more often. But I'm sure that it's CDPR, like they know how to make a good game, so that'll be killer no matter what. It's the big huge difference between The Witcher 4 and The Witcher 3 is people care about The Witcher now. Like, with all due respect to
you're right,
Andrei Sapkowski, like when Witcher 3 came out, like Witcher 1 pretty much, that was a deep cut thing. Witcher 2 I think surprised some people, and Witcher 3 really made people sit up straight and pay attention. And fast forward, now we've got we're 4 seasons deep on a Netflix show. The books have all been localized and translated and published all over the place. There's an anime, there's action figures. Like The Witcher has become like a real major property. And so, they've got no pressure. Do
you think Witcher 4 will feature a sort of reworked version of Gwent?
Man.
That game, because Witcher 3 gave us Gwent too.
You can't
which is its whole own game.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't mess with Gwent, but also, give us something new, Yeah.
Well, getting back to this year in a PlayStation exclusive, Ghost of Yotei is going to be the sequel to my personal favorite PlayStation 4 game. That was such a beautiful open world, sort of like light fantasy. I love the mechanic of following the wind to your objectives. I think there were some complaints that some of the side content and enemies got repetitive. It wasn't really a problem for me because clearing outposts is pretty much my favorite thing to do in video games, but I would totally understand if it felt repetitive to other people. Max, what are you sort of expecting from Ghost of Yotei this year?
I think that it's a new setting entirely. I think there is that, expectation that if it was more Tsushima, they would have to reinvent an island. One thing I'm excited about is this is a next-gen game. This is not a, cross-platform release. I think it's easy to forget because Ghost of Tsushima was so gorgeous, but that was a PS4 game that eventually got a sort of PS5 upres or what have you. But this is going to be a game developed exclusively for new hardware, which that's cool. I like that. That's something that kind of I think kicked us off on the topic for this week. But this generation hasn't really had that many big open world games that aren't also backwards compatible or aren't also cross gen. Like, we haven't really seen any exclusively PS5 Series X games with a few notable exceptions. But as far as like the really big, like, we didn't get a GTA, we didn't get a Skyrim, Ghost of Yotei and Assassin's Creed Shadows are two really big, huge, properly next gen open world games, and they have a again no pressure, but I'm excited to see what the increased power of newer hardware actually looks like in action.
That's my most anticipated open world game. Super excited for that one. Ryan, remind us what Light No Fire is.
Oh, gladly. So this was a reveal over a year ago now at Game Awards 2023. And this is Hello Games. It's Sean Murray and his insane programming brain that just does what it does, creating, in course, with No Man's Sky, an entire universe. So the idea with Light No Fire is that instead of an entire universe, it's one entire Earth-sized planet. But think about that. Just actually think about that. Like, you don't know who most people in the next state, let alone the next country or across the ocean. And this game promises an entire planet with a more fleshed out, like, fantasy setting with a little bit more core action adventure gameplay than the sort of just sheer exploration of No Man's Sky. And so, yeah, you could live out an entire in-game life just if you're, I don't know, maybe you find yourself on an island and you just live there and you sail for food and hunt and who knows what you get up. Or you could end up high in the mountains somewhere on some other continent and have an entirely other different adventure. So the idea of this is so there's I mean, really the sky's the limit. Pardon the accidental No Man's Sky reference there, but it's at this point, I think Hello Games I think they've re-earned the trust here, because obviously it's well documented that we all bought in hook, line, and sinker to No Man's Sky's potential, and the launch version of that game just didn't live up to that. But over the years, I mean, Hello is still putting out free, substantive content updates. And that game, if you jump into it now, it is every bit the vision that it originally was, and arguably probably a lot more than what it originally said it was going to be.
No, I will say that gamers did those guys dirty big time. And obviously they overpromised with that initial trailer, but I think they made good on that front. And I've anecdotally, I've had friends who are not particularly, up to speed on what's big in the world of gaming, who've gotten into No Man's Sky after the fact. And they've had the best time ever, because there's no, they weren't like, oh, you can't do this thing I thought I could do. And they keep adding more to this. As for Light No Fire, I'm curious how that works out, because I don't know how many people have walked across a state, like I've never walked across like Rhode Island, even one of the small ones. That's a long way to walk. Anyone who's played Flight Simulator, knows how long it takes from one chunk of an Earth-sized planet to somewhere else, even if it's seemingly close by. How long does it take if you're flying on a giant hummingbird?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
But at least this time around, that I'm not certainly going to sit here and promise that Light No Fire is going to ship in a fully fleshed out, polished state. But obviously, Hello doesn't. They learned the lesson. They know full well how No Man's Sky went. So I think that's probably why we haven't heard anything from them in over a year now, that they're trying to lock in and deliver on the full maximum potential of this thing. But I am very optimistic that they will, and I just can't wait to see what this world is like and where I end up in it with my friends.
Yeah, setting your game on a fantasy planet the size of Earth meets my definition of groundbreaking, if they can actually achieve that goal. Max, I know you're a big Kojima fan. Death Stranding was a very groundbreaking game for its time. A very unusual game had a bunch of new ideas that it brought to the table. I know they're going to be showing more of Death Stranding 2 soon at South by Southwest, but as of right now, what are you sort of expecting for Death Stranding 2?
I really don't know what to expect, because it's Kojima. I'm dying to see what he does. I hope he does something new. Frequently with games, the second installment is the best one, because it takes everything the first one did right and builds on it. And Kojima has shown that he knows how to iterate. If you look at the Metal Gear series, and I'm hoping that iteration goes in wacky directions in the gameplay department, because that's the one thing we haven't really seen. We've seen a lot of stuff from cutscenes. We've seen some musical numbers. There's puppets. We've seen some celebrity cameos. We've seen that everyone is blue for some reason. There's a lot of weird stuff going on here because of course there is. But yeah, again, like I feel like we have the fact that it's an open world game has almost gotten lost in the shuffle. Yeah. But the core loop, presumably, if it's still following what the first game set up, is going to be basically like next gen Paperboy, where you're just trying to deliver the mail without getting attacked by ghosts. So I don't know how that changes when you're flying around in a big hovercraft that looks like Metal Gear Rex's head, but I'm dying to find out. Yeah, again, this is a PS5 game. This is something else I'm excited about. Is like, what is this? How does this take advantage of the hardware jump? What does it do? What kind of crazy stuff is it attempting? Also, Kojima, got some side eye for saying that the first Death Stranding was the first game of the Strand genre, whatever that means. Yeah. But I do think that I think that people have become more accustomed to that sort of, kind of passively helping other players. Animal Crossing was a lot of that, where you're like, oh, I'm going to leave, presents for my friends. Like the entire, the Souls games are all about that, where you're leaving notes, and sometimes they're silly notes and sometimes they're helping people, defeat a boss or whatever. How do you build on that in the Death Stranding space? Because the first one, I kind of screwed myself up on the first one because I played the entire thing pre-release. And after it came out, suddenly there's an entire community of people building bridges and roads, and just like that's the point. And I think that honestly, I feel like I was I missed out, and I've actually been meaning to revisit it because it is kind of a it's a cool thing. I also like, as for the kind of stuff that Kojima's going to add, when we got the so-called director's cut on PS5, they added like a racetrack and like a human catapult, and just the guy knows how to throw in some cool stuff here and there, and I'm hoping that it lives up to expectations.
Yeah, I like that little stop motion puppet as well too. The last game I wanted to shout out was Assassin's Creed Shadows, which has been a long time coming after a few delays and almost 5 years since the last Assassin's Creed game of this ilk, the big, huge RPG. It's we have the two protagonists that we're going to be able to switch between, and it's also doing some cool things with the weather. Like as the weather changes, a previously frozen lake might reveal a new passage for you to gain access to a new area. So I like these types of games. I like the Japanese setting. I'm excited to play this one. Ryan, are you looking forward to Assassin's Creed Shadows finally arriving?
I am, because I think it's probably going to be the closest thing I can get to Splinter Cell for a while, because there's still no sign of the Splinter Cell remake. And this does genuinely seem to want to be trying to work in some stealth elements to it, like really bake it into the gameplay at a core level. So yeah, I will be curiously diving into this with the intention of approaching it as a stealth game, and we'll see how much the game will support that.
Yeah. Hopefully we don't have to wait too much longer, maybe just a couple more weeks to play Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Looks like it.
So that's our roundup. Now we want to know, you dear viewer, what's your favorite open world game of this generation? Cyberpunk, Elden Ring, and I know these are cross-gen games, but they're available. They came out during this generation. So Cyberpunk, Elden Ring, Hogwarts Legacy, Horizon Forbidden West, or Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Make sure to vote at IGN.com the day this episode goes live, and we'll share the results with you next week, just like we can with last week's poll. What Xbox game do you want on PS5 next? And the winner with 43% of the vote was Gears of War, right? Not Halo Infinite. That came in second.
Nice.
That was followed by Starfield and then Avowed, which is a shame because I did not care for Starfield at all, but I'm really enjoying Avowed. The more I play it, the more I like it. Avowed is super fun. And that's going to do it for this edition of Next Gen Console Watch. Thank you to both Max and Ryan. Thank you to everyone working behind the scenes in our LA studio to make this episode possible. My name is Daemon. We'll be back next week with the latest gaming hardware news. We'll see you then.